Do you hear that? Something up the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something right there.
Do you hear that? Something moved. Deep in the shadows of Mount St. Helens, something stirred in the canyon. And it wasn't just the wind. This time, a group of hunters was ready, with cameras, military gear, and nerves of steel.
Most of the time we use that to eliminate the variables and say this wasn't a Bigfoot, this was something
That's great.
more common and alive.
High-tech hunt begins. The team returned to a place that had already given them chills, the Valley of Ape Canyon, nestled in the dense wilderness near Mount St. Helens. But this time, they weren't chasing stories or relying on hearsay. They were tracking real data, heat signatures, strange sounds, and subtle signs of movement. They believed something was there, something that didn't want to be found. Ape Canyon was already known for mysterious sightings. Strange sounds, eerie silences, and odd reports had earned it a chilling reputation among those who dared to explore it. The name itself carried weight in Bigfoot circles. But this team came prepared. They brought with them more than stories. They brought years of field experience, cutting-edge gear, and the memory of a past encounter that had never left them. Leading the expedition was Joe Bongiovanni, founder of the Cascade Sasquatch Research Organization. Joe had been convinced ever since his personal experience back in 2000. That moment, when he believed he came face-to-face with a Sasquatch, changed everything for him. It wasn't just about belief, it became about proof. Alongside him was Jim Snodgrass, a seasoned investigator in his own right. Together, Joe and Jim had studied this region for years. Most of the time, their tools were used to eliminate Bigfoot as a possibility, to prove that strange sightings were really just elk, or that odd sounds were distant coyotes. But this time was different. This time, they were hoping to prove the opposite. They were prepared to find whatever was lurking in the shadows. Mobile Command Center. To support their mission, they brought a specialized vehicle. No ordinary ride, but a custom-built Humvee designed specifically for Bigfoot research. It wasn't just a truck, it was a mobile command center. The vehicle had cost $120,000 and was fully outfitted with surveillance and tracking technology, some of which was on par with military-grade equipment. It had a mounted thermal turret system, the same type used on Black Hawk helicopters. This turret allowed the team to scan the forest from a high vantage point, even in total darkness. Every inch of the forest floor could be examined for signs of heat. If anything warm-blooded was out there, human, animal, or otherwise, it would show up on their screens. Jim Snodgrass was in the driver's seat, navigating the rough terrain with precision. Inside the vehicle, night vision gear replaced standard visibility tools. From the outside, it looked pitch black. No headlights were used, no visible lights were turned on. But from inside, Jim could see everything. Every flicker of motion, every shadow between trees, every subtle shift in the landscape. It was all visible to him thanks to the state-of-the-art vision systems built into the truck. Their goal was clear and simple: remain unseen, stay silent, and use the technology to locate whatever was moving through the canyon. They weren't interested in ghost stories or folklore. They were there to collect proof. If something was out there, this was the best chance they'd ever had to catch it.
Really good view up here. So if anything's moving down below here, I think I'm for sure gonna get on the thermal.
Man in the trees. But ground coverage wasn't enough. That's why one of the team's most experienced members, Phil, took on a very different role. Instead of staying with the vehicle, he went high, 100 feet high, into the forest canopy. Phil was suspended in a tree, hanging safely in position to observe from above. He was equipped with a high-powered thermal camera, and from his elevated view, he could scan the valley below with a perspective no one else had. While the team on the ground searched the terrain level by level, Phil could observe wide swaths of forest all at once. Bigfoot, if it existed, would likely be massive, but the dense tree cover provided plenty of places to hide. That's where Phil's position gave them a key advantage. Most animals don't look up when sensing danger, which made him nearly invisible to anything below. Phil's camera was synced with the rest of the team's systems. This meant that anything he saw, they saw in real time. He was like an eye in the sky, constantly feeding live footage into the Humvee's monitors. Every heat signature, every unusual movement, every moment of silence between those moments. It was all captured and shared. The forest was completely quiet, the only noise being the steady hum of the equipment. No one spoke. No flashlights were used. They operated entirely in stealth mode. Their main tools were thermal and infrared cameras, which allowed them to operate without disturbing the natural setting. Phil kept a steady watch from above. He scanned the dark shapes, the tree trunks, the gaps in the underbrush. This wasn't a fast or noisy chase. It was slow, quiet, and extremely deliberate. Every move had to count. They knew success wouldn't come in minutes. They would have to be patient. In the world of Bigfoot tracking, it's not about chasing. It's about waiting, watching, and being ready when something moves. First heat signature. The night was quiet. The team waited in silence, eyes fixed on the thermal cameras. Patience was key in a search like this. Then, something changed. Jim's thermal camera lit up. A faint heat signature appeared in the distance. Something was out there, and it was moving. At first, they couldn't tell what it was, but they quickly realized this wasn't a normal animal. It wasn't shaped like a deer, elk, or bear. It was too big, and it was standing upright. The team froze. They stayed completely still, watching closely. No one made a sound. The shape on the screen moved fast, too fast. Before they could study it more, it vanished. Just like that, it was gone. They didn't have enough time to be sure what it was. No clear image, no confirmation, but they had seen something, and that was enough to get their adrenaline going. It wasn't the first time they had seen mysterious heat signatures in this area. Over the years, each time they got close, the figure would disappear before they could get a good look. It was almost like the creature, whatever it was, knew they were coming. It always vanished just in time, but this time, they weren't backing off. They became even more focused. They adjusted their equipment. They scanned the area again. They stayed ready, provoking a response. Waiting wasn't working. So the team made a new plan. They weren't going to stay quiet anymore. They needed to do something bold, something to pull the creature out of hiding. They started broadcasting sound. These weren't random noises. They used recordings of howls, whoops, and calls that had been linked to Bigfoot sightings in the past. They played them through their speakers, letting the sounds echo through the canyon. The team waited. At first, nothing happened. Then, something answered. A distant sound, a howl. Then another. It came from the shadows, faint but clear. Something was out there. It was responding. The team stayed quiet, their breath caught in their throats. Their eyes stayed glued to the thermal screens. The heat signatures returned. They flickered on the camera. They were back. This time, the team was ready. They zoomed in. They tracked every movement. The shapes weren't easy to see clearly, but they were moving. They weren't acting like regular animals. They weren't just walking around. It felt like they were aware that someone was watching them. Jim's voice came through the radio. "Stay calm, everyone. We're close. Stay sharp." Then they saw them. Two large heat signatures appeared on the camera. Both were bigger than any known animal. Not bears, not elk, not anything they had ever seen before. One of the figures moved left, slipping behind a large tree. The other stayed in place, just on the edge of full view. But it was definitely there, clear, alive, and massive. The team's excitement grew. This was the closest they had ever been. They didn't speak, they didn't move, they just watched. But then, as fast as it came, it was gone. The figures disappeared again. No footsteps, no branches breaking, no rustling of leaves, just gone. Narrow escape and frustration. Still, the team didn't stop. They had come too far. They had seen too much. They had to keep pushing forward. They moved deeper into the valley, carefully, quietly. Their eyes scanned the trees. Their cameras searched every corner. No one knew exactly what they had seen, but they knew it had been real. Whatever it was, it didn't want to be found. "I can't see it at all now," one of the team members said. "I think it took off." Phil, still perched in the tree high above the ground, adjusted his thermal camera. He tried to find a better angle, hoping to catch a glimpse of the figures again. He shifted his position slightly, and then he slipped. It was a small movement, just a little noise, but it was enough to alert whatever was out there. The creature vanished again. Not a sound, no trace, just gone. Phil was frustrated. You could hear it in his voice as he spoke into the radio. "I had it right there," he said, "and it got away again." The moment was lost, again, but they weren't ready to give up. Ape Canyon legend. As the night slowly gave way to dawn, the team couldn't help but think about the place they were in, Ape Canyon. It wasn't just a name, it had a dark, strange history, a story that went back nearly 100 years. In the 1920s, 5 miners were working in this same area near Mount St. Helens. They were far from town, deep in the wilderness, just a group of men searching for gold. One night, they returned to their cabin after a long day. That's when the attack began. Large rocks began to hit the cabin walls. The noise was loud, sudden, violent. The miners were startled. They rushed to the windows, and then they saw them, huge, hairy creatures standing in the darkness, watching. The figures were tall, taller than any bear, and they looked like giant apes. The rocks kept flying. The miners believed the creatures were trying to break into the cabin. Scared for their lives, the men grabbed their guns. They opened fire into the night, rifles, revolvers, anything they had. They hoped it would scare the creatures off, but the attack didn't stop. The figures moved closer. They growled. They reached through the windows. They tried to grab the miners' tools and weapons. The men stayed inside, terrified, holding their ground. Finally, as the sun rose, the creatures disappeared. No sign of them remained, but the miners were deeply shaken. They packed up and left the area, and they never returned. Years passed. Then a man named Mark Marcel heard the story. As a young boy, he had seen a reenactment of the attack on television. It stayed with him. As he grew up, he became a land surveyor, and he decided to look into the story. He talked to local people, dug into old records, searched for clues, and he found more stories, people who claimed to see strange creatures in the same area. Some believed it was Sasquatch. Mark wrote a book about it, Mountain Devil, the 1924 Ape Canyon attack and its aftermath. It became a well-known account in the world of Bigfoot research. The story left a lasting impact on the local community. People started calling the creature the Mountain Devil. Even those who didn't believe the story had to admit, too many people had seen something strange. To this day, people still go to Ape Canyon. They bring high-tech gear, thermal cameras, drones, and search for answers. But no one has ever captured clear evidence. The mystery of Ape Canyon lives on. Evidence and doubts. Even though the team didn't catch a clear image of the creature on camera, they didn't walk away empty-handed. They had something, and that something raised more questions than it answered. What they captured was thermal footage, visual recordings made with heat-sensing cameras. These images showed heat signatures moving through the dark forest. The signatures didn't belong to any animals they were familiar with. The team had plenty of experience identifying common wildlife. They knew what deer, elk, and bears looked like on thermal. But these shapes didn't match. The shapes were too large, they moved differently, and most importantly, they moved upright. That's what set them apart. The shapes didn't walk on 4 legs. They weren't shaped like mountain lions, wolves, or even large bears. They moved in a way that was more human-like, but bigger, heavier, and yet faster than expected. That wasn't all. The team also collected a scat sample, an animal dropping they believed might provide clues. They sent it to a lab for testing. The results came back. Bear. It was bear scat. But that still didn't explain what they had seen. Bears don't walk upright for long distances. They don't move with that kind of speed or purpose. And they don't usually vanish silently into the woods when being tracked. There was more. During the night, the team had recorded the sounds they heard echoing through the forest. Strange vocalizations, howls, whoops, calls that didn't match any known species. To make sense of it, they gave the recordings to wildlife audio experts. The experts tested the sounds. They compared them against known animal calls. They tried wolves, they tried coyotes, they tried bears. None of them matched. None of the animals produced vocalizations that sounded like what the team had heard. The recordings remained unexplained. They didn't sound artificial. They didn't sound like equipment errors, but they also didn't match any known animal species. Was it Bigfoot? Was it a bear behaving strangely? Or was it something else, something unknown, still hiding deep in the forests? The team couldn't say. They didn't have clear answers. But what they did have was a growing mystery and more questions than ever before. Winnebago incident. The story didn't end with just the team's experience. There were others. One of the most puzzling reports came from Pennsylvania. A man named John Reed was camping with his girlfriend. It was just another quiet trip until something unexpected happened. They were inside their 1973 Winnebago, enjoying the calm of the night. Everything was still and peaceful. Then, something moved past the window. It was large. It was dark. It was covered in hair. John Reed said it looked like Bigfoot. And then it got stranger. The figure didn't just pass by. It began throwing rocks directly at the outside light of the Winnebago. It didn't attack the people inside. It didn't try to get in. It only targeted the light, almost as if it didn't want to be seen. It seemed like the creature was trying to knock out the light to stay hidden. That raised questions. Why would a wild animal throw rocks at a light source? Why would it get that close to a camper, only to run away again? Reed wasn't just a random camper. He was a Bigfoot enthusiast. He had founded a Bigfoot hunting group and claimed to have seen the creature not once but twice before. But this time, he didn't take a photo. And that's what made people skeptical. In a world where almost everyone carries a phone, why didn't he get a picture? Why no video? Even those who believe in Bigfoot found it strange. The creature passed right by a window, just inches away, and yet no image was captured. The story got attention, but it also brought doubt. Still, Reed insisted on what he saw. And as strange as his story seemed, it wasn't the first time Bigfoot had been blamed for bizarre encounters near campsites. Bigfoot and vehicle vandalism. Stories like the Winnebago incident weren't rare. Over the years, people have blamed Bigfoot for damaging personal property. Sometimes it was cabins, sometimes it was sheds, and many times it was vehicles. People reported dents, scratches, and broken parts. Some believed Bigfoot was behind these attacks. One of the most well-known stories came from 2011. John Bindernagel, a respected Bigfoot researcher, traveled to western Siberia. He went to investigate reports of the Yeti, the Russian version of Bigfoot. While there, he found something strange. Trees, large ones, had been snapped and twisted. To Bindernagel, it was more than just storm damage. He believed these breaks were signs of Bigfoot behavior. Other researchers had said the same, pointing to twisted branches and tree nests as clues that something big and powerful had moved through. Back in the US, there were more vehicle-related stories. In 2008, a couple in South Carolina reported that their 2002 Dodge Grand Caravan had been vandalized. It wasn't just scratches. The vehicle had bite marks. Part of the fender was torn off. The couple couldn't explain it. Some people believed it could have been Bigfoot. There were no photos, no footprints. No one saw the creature, just the damage. That led to debate. Skeptics said it could have been a bear or raccoons. Wild animals often break into cars, especially if they smell food inside. It's not uncommon. But in this case, the damage looked different. The bite marks didn't match raccoons. The ripped-off fender suggested incredible strength. And this wasn't an isolated story. Many people across the country have reported similar things. Windows smashed, doors bent, lights broken, and almost every time, no one saw what it did. No photos, no tracks, just a mystery. The puzzle. There's something strange about all these Bigfoot stories. Despite all the property damage, cars, cabins, lights, Bigfoot is rarely, if ever, accused of hurting people. That's unusual. Bears attack people. Moose have charged hikers. Wild boars can be aggressive. But Bigfoot? Never a direct assault. It's strange, especially for a creature said to be large, strong, and capable of serious destruction. It throws rocks. It breaks things. It damages vehicles. But it avoids humans. It watches from the trees. It stays hidden. It disappears the moment anyone gets close. And that's part of the mystery. Why damage things but never attack people? Why appear and vanish? Why are there so many sightings but no proof? Some people think it's all fake, just myths, misidentified animals, maybe hoaxes. Others believe it's real, but that Bigfoot is smarter than we realize, cautious, intelligent, avoiding us on purpose. No one knows the truth. But one thing is certain, the mystery hasn't gone away. Every time someone hears a strange noise in the woods, every time a camper finds their car damaged with no explanation, every time a thermal camera picks up a shape that disappears, the question comes back, is Bigfoot out there? Whether Bigfoot is real or not, the mystery continues to grow. People still talk about the creature, still head into the woods with cameras and recorders, and still come back with strange stories, odd footprints, and sounds no one can explain. Something is out there, and the Expedition X team knows it. For Joe, Jim, Jess, Phil, and Matt, the search didn't end with this expedition. They had seen too much to give up now. They captured strange heat signatures, heard chilling howls, and watched large shapes vanish into the trees. Each time they were just seconds away from proof, and each time it slipped away. But they returned, again and again, convinced they were getting closer to revealing what has been hiding in the dark for so long. Ape Canyon has been a hotspot for nearly a century. In 1924, miners reported a terrifying night, rocks thrown at their cabin, large creatures outside, arms reaching through windows. Their story became legend, giving birth to the name Mountain Devil, what we now call Bigfoot. Decades later, people still visit Ape Canyon, some armed with high-tech gear, others guided only by curiosity, all searching for the same answer. Is it real? So far, no one has captured clear evidence, but strange events keep piling up. In Pennsylvania, John Reed watched a tall, hairy figure pass his Winnebago and vanish. In South Carolina, a van was found with bite marks and a torn fender. In Siberia, trees stood twisted and broken. Always the same pattern: damage without witnesses, signs without proof, and sightings that vanish before they can be explained. Again and again, Bigfoot is blamed, but never proven. Still, people return. Because if it's not Bigfoot, then what is it? Why do so many people describe the same upright figure? Why do the sounds and movements defy identification? Why do thermal cameras capture shapes that no one can ever quite catch? These are the questions that keep the search alive. The Expedition X team isn't done. They know what they saw, and they believe they're close. Maybe next time, it won't just be a flicker on a screen or a shadow in the trees. Maybe next time, the world will finally see what's been out there all along. Until then, the legend continues. In the forests of Mount St. Helens, the valley of Ape Canyon, the campsites of Pennsylvania, the broken trees of Siberia, and everywhere something big, quiet, and mysterious stays just out of reach. The chase is far from over,